and we will get underway.
I should probably say, obviously, I'm not Emma Kavanagh. I am Kate Keane, but I'm here in her account because last time I had to go into her account and then I couldn't be bothered to log back out.
Always rename yourself, Kate, if you wanted to.
Could, but I think one Emma is more than enough in our lives.
I don't know what on
Doing
earth
nothing.
you're saying. I don't know what's happened to Zoom this month. It feels a little bit like it has changed everything, and I now don't know what I'm doing. So please bear with me one moment. Let's go to present. So here we go. This is the Social Media Essentials Club for March. So yeah, it is March next week, believe it or not. After a very long January, we're now going quickly through February and into March. So again, you both know who we are, but for those people on the video who perhaps don't know who that we are, here's a little bit of a update for you, or an introduction. And so let's get started with the dates for the month. So in March, there are lots and lots of different national days that you could take advantage of. So I am just going to run through them for you. They can also be found on our blog, where there'll be some further information, and potentially all of the hashtags will be there and things like that. So on the 1st, we've got St David's Day. Just a reason I love it at the moment, because you can get some daffodils at the till of M&S for £1, and daffodils always brighten up your day. So that always tells me that St David's Day is around the corner. On the 2nd, which I think is next Thursday, is a day that parents either love or hate, and it's World Book Day. So people will be scratching around, if you're like me, for a costume. But yeah, it can be a quite nice one for your audience. You can twist it around in so many different ways in terms of World Book Day. So you could talk back about books you liked as a child and the characters that you would have liked to have been, or you can take an adult twist on it, and maybe there's a book that you're reading at the moment that you want to share. Then week commencing the 6th, we've got some food related ones. So we've got British Pie Week. So are you a sweet or a savoury pie kind of person? Love a pucker, chicken and mushroom pucker pie from the chip shop.
Really?
Can't beat it.
That's trashy. That's trashy.
No, there's not enough meat in it, not enough meat in it. Just gravy and pastry.
Apologies.
You've
There's
got
a
to
lot
get
of
to
salt in
Knoll.
it.
You need to get to Knoll and have a good pie from there.
It's also Food Waste Action Week, so if you've had a pie, you probably won't waste any any of the content, but it is there. And then the week commencing 6th is also Careers Week. So again, you could perhaps talk about how you got into your career. For those HR businesses that will be watching this back, then that might be relevant to them. For some careers advice. Then on the 8th of that week is International Women's Day. Again, a shout out to all the women out there, women in your life, women who you admire. And then there'll often be lots of events around that are about International Women's Day, albeit the Chamber aren't running an International Women's Day event this year, which is unusual. Then on the 9th, it is 9th to the 12th is Crufts, which is one that I particularly like, because I just like to watch it on the telly because it makes me laugh. But again, everybody loves a pet related post on social media. It gets lots and lots of interaction. And so if you can tie anything into Crufts, then that always goes down a storm. The 13th is Commonwealth Day. Also Cheltenham Festival, Racing Festival will be on that week. So again, might be something to talk about in your content. I plan on going on the Wednesday. I don't know whether I'm going to be a winner or loser, probably a loser, based on previous experience. And then on Friday the 17th, we've got a few things. So we've got St. Patrick's Day, always a good one if you enjoy the crack. Comic Relief is also on that day. And then there's a date that I've not heard of before, which is World Sleep Day. And I do feel a little bit like I need a bit of extra sleep at the moment. And I was reading an article earlier that says that we need more sleep during winter than we do other times of the year.
Oh,
So
I
maybe
read that
that's
as well. It's like we
oh,
don't need to hibernate, but actually we do need more sleep in the winter.
I just think I need more sleep, full stop. The
Is
18th
that
is
your
Global
excuse for not being around on the 17th?
Yeah, definitely. Find me under my desk asleep. The 18th is Global Recycling Day. The 19th is Mother's Day. And then the 20th, which is always a bit of a funny one, is Spring Equinox. Because obviously, if it snows on that day, then it's not really one where you really want to be shouting about the start of spring.
What date's that? Sorry.
The 20th.
20th. Okay.
But it also is International Day of Happiness as well. The 21st is World Down Syndrome Day and World Poetry Day. So if you're a poet and you didn't know it, you could write a ditty. The 25th of March is Earth Hour. So I think the concept of Earth Hour is that everybody's supposed to turn off everything between a certain time on that day. Trying to drag the kids' devices off them for that hour might be quite difficult, but we could go for a walk, and so maybe that would be an opportunity.
Might be
And then
quite controversial, bearing in mind the fact that some people probably already have things turned off quite a lot more than normal.
the 26th is the date that the clocks change, so we spring into summer, so go forward, and lose an hour's sleep again, but never mind. The 27th is World Theatre Day. Might be a quite nice one for you, Joe, because obviously you could do some bits around the Belgrade Theatre, Albany Theatre, in Coventry. And the 29th is Piano Day. So if you're a pianist, that might be one that you want to talk about.
Or if something needs tuning, maybe there's a different twist on it.
Yes.
So just to add to that, really, that obviously we share a lot of the national days, but we're not expecting everybody to use every single one. And if you're in our Facebook group, you'll have seen that yesterday I shared, so Bowden Clothing had done a take on their Pancake Day toppings and had done something quite different with that, which I thought was unusual and thought was a good kind of way to go with it. So if you're in the Facebook group, go and have a nosy at that.
Yeah, and I suppose the other thing to say is that sometimes it just gives you some inspiration, and it's not necessarily that you need to use the post on that specific day. It might just have given you, or even put any comment about that day, it might have just given you an idea that helps you to think of something a little bit different. Or if the worst comes to the worst, you can do a joke about it.
Yeah.
So now on to Kate for email campaigns.
Yeah, email campaigns. So we've used MailChimp for as long as I can remember. And it's always been quite useful for smaller businesses, because if you've got a database and you're below 2,000 subscribers, at the moment you would get that for free. But from the 10th of March, that's all changing. And I kind of understand why. So I've had a few issues on a few client accounts recently, and I've had to spend a lot of time speaking to MailChimp about getting access back to those accounts and various different things. And every single one of those accounts was a free account. So it wasn't an account where they were getting any money out of, that business. And so it kind of makes sense that they've basically said, actually, we need to change our model. And our model's now going to be that you have 500 contacts as a maximum. That's the free amount. And then anything after that, you're going to have to pay, because I would think that they're probably getting a lot of customer service questions and not actually getting any money out of these clients. So we are basically reviewing with all of our clients what we're going to use. And so we just thought we would share really some of the options that we've come up with and some of the things that we're going to use. Now, for any clients that we've got where they're under 500 or they're close to that, what we might do is encourage them to clean their database a little bit and just make sure that they're happy that actually, if you've got people that have never opened your email, you can probably clean them off the database and those sorts of things. So we'll have some people that will stay with MailChimp. We've then looked at MailerLite because a few people have recommended that to us. And so that option allows you to have 1,000 subscribers before you have to pay for anything. So again, that might be an option. My understanding is that it's very, very similar to MailChimp in its setup, and you could potentially use that one. I've got one client that is looking at Flowdesk, and they were really quite happy with using that in terms of they felt that it was really strong from a design element and the things that they could do with that. So but that is a paid option. And so that I think was, what did I say it was? About $19 a month.
A month.
So it's $19 a month, but that was regardless of how many subscribers you had. So it gives you the ability to be able to know what you're going to pay and grow. I think that $19 a month was with a 50% off code for the first year. So do have a code if anybody wants access to that, they can have it. So we will probably encourage some of our bigger clients to use Flowdesk, because I think that will allow them to continue to grow and they won't ever have to worry about the subscription price changing. Most of the other ones like MailChimp and MailerLite will do it based on, so we'll have like a limit. So it'll probably be 1,000 to 2,500. It will go up this much, and then after that, it will keep going up in increments. And then we have had one client before who had everything in Shopify. So they had their shop and their website was all built in Shopify, and so they used their emails within there. And that again was it was a very reasonable way and cheap way of emailing their contacts. So it is all going to change. I think people are going to have to kind of look at it, but that's our take on it. We will be looking at MailerLite and Flowdesk as alternatives. But if anybody comes up with any others, always happy to have a look and see what they look like. But a bit of a headache. So we've got a big long list of people that we need to go through and decide what we're going to do with them. And it'll be different decisions for different businesses because of how big they are and what they're looking to get out of the mailing platform. So Imelda was going to do this bit. She's not here. Rude. So I've just been watching some videos actually on, so this is always one of the questions that we get asked quite a lot is, so when we're planning content for a client, we would always try and schedule ahead, just because we've got quite a few that we schedule for, and that's the most effective way for us to do it. And then we know that we've planned all of their content. And one of the questions we always get asked is, will I be penalised if I schedule either in the platform or using a third-party app? And the answer to that is no. So you can schedule, it's not a problem, it's not going to affect reach or anything like that. But up until probably a few months ago, LinkedIn didn't have the option to schedule, and Instagram you could only do via Facebook Business Suite and things like that. So Imelda's just pulled together here a little bit of a snapshot really of how you can schedule if you want to schedule like natively into a platform. So Facebook Business, Meta Business Suite, basically you can schedule in there, and you can obviously schedule months in advance. Normally, if you've linked everything up correctly, you'll be able to link your Instagram account, and then you can see it as various different things. There's a diary and a full content planner. and you can make changes directly in there if you want to.
And you can
LinkedIn,
also,
relatively.
sorry, on Facebook, so you can do a normal post, and you can also schedule a story post in there as well, which obviously can then be utilized on Instagram as well.
Yeah. LinkedIn have only just released this, and I think it's only if you've got your creator switched on. You would need to be that in LinkedIn to get access to scheduling. I think it's still a bit buggy, so there's still things where people are saying, oh, I can't do this, or I don't know how to do that. But essentially, you should be able to schedule up to 30 days in advance, make changes in there, and then view all of the content that you've scheduled in. So it's worth having a look at that, because we've been using, up until this point, we've generally used something like Buffer to schedule if we wanted to on LinkedIn. Instagram, so there's some new bits and pieces if you look on the mobile app, that actually you can now actually schedule reels into Instagram, which you weren't able to do before. If we were, it's been a bit of a headache for us, to be honest, because clients want to do reels, but then when we need them posting, we're kind of having to set diary reminders so that we can do it, because we weren't scheduling anywhere else. And if you did try and schedule somewhere else, it never worked out, and there's always errors on it. So as far as Instagram is concerned, you can now schedule in the platform, and again, you can view and edit the content. You can schedule reels and you can schedule ads. What I might do is we'll do perhaps a little bit of a video that shows you where to find that information on your Instagram app, because it's just hidden away slightly in terms of how you schedule those. And then Twitter, again, a lot of people will use a third-party tool, but you can actually schedule in Twitter if you want to, directly in there. And we do that for quite a few clients successfully.
It's just complicated when you want to try and find what you've scheduled, and that's the same on LinkedIn at the moment. That's the question we've had come back to us, is how do you find what you've scheduled? And it's just a little bit tricky. So like Kate said, they're both a little bit buggy.
I think they've tried to answer people's requests, but not quite got there with usability at the minute. But I'm sure it won't take them long to kind of sort that out.
Okay, so some conversation starters that you could use in your content for this month. So obviously it is spring equinox, so you could talk about your favourite season, or you could ask what people particularly like about spring. What is the thing that, I don't know, for me, bluebells is spring, seeing those shoots coming up and those kind of things. So you could ask those questions. There's the whole thing around spring cleaning, isn't there? So do you in your business spring clean, and those kind of things. We quite like this or that post. So would you rather this or that? So again, it's Sarah Gray. If you're watching this back, then obviously from a fashion design, going for a monochrome look versus a coloured look or something like that. I think quite a lot of the retailers do those really, really well. David, I dare say there's one about whether you pick up the phone or you send an email. Are you a this or are you a that?
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. Yeah.
When it comes to sales and things, because I think people are naturally, they're either people who want to pick up the phone, and people who don't want to pick up the phone. I'll let you think about which one I am. It's obviously the end of the first quarter for 2023 at the end of March. So again, how has the first quarter gone for people? Is it as they expected it to be? If they had some New Year's resolutions, did they break them already? Have they reassessed their business goals? You could then do something around 3 things to try this month as well. So if you only do 3 things this month, make sure you do this, this, and this. And so, yeah, they're just good conversation starters to be having with people.
And then we're trying to look at kind of helpful ways to engage your audience. So again, I've just been watching a bit of a webinar around Facebook and things like that, just to see if anything new has come out of that. And not massively. Video is still very important, based on the fact that you're only going to get a 5.2% organic reach on average on Facebook. So some of the things that will help will be, so stories. Obviously, we've got the option to do those on both Facebook and Instagram. I think they're quite important, just to allow you to kind of, one, add some sales messages, but two, just show a little bit behind the scenes and show what's going on in the business and things like that. Reels are here to stay. So that short form video is staying around, and it is probably still the most popular, I would say, on Instagram in terms of what the algorithm is liking and what people are watching. Polls, I think, still work quite well on all platforms. So Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all those polls are working quite well on there. But then what could you do to kind of help other people? So obviously that's you pushing some sales messages, but who have you recommended in terms of sort of a networking aspect? Whose products or services would you use? And have you shared that on your channels? Remember that you need to comment back to your audience. So important, not to just post and run. And then just thinking about how you can repurpose posts, really. So even if it's something from last year that you've used, we don't want everybody trying to reinvent the wheel and come up with new content time and time again. If there's something that's worked really well, how can you reuse it, repurpose it, put a slightly different twist on it, and see if you can get some leverage out of that.
And then Amalda has drafted some graphics templates that you will have received via the Canva link. So to help you in terms of just some easy graphics for you to use. So take a look in there, have a look, add your own logos. Might just give you some inspiration of things that you can use. And that's it. So, any questions?
Just an observation from me, guys. It's quite interesting. Obviously, this is the first time I've attended. And the reason I've attended, of course, is because I wanted to hang out with you guys on a Wednesday evening. But also, I'm being a lot more proactive, particularly with my LinkedIn. So I've just opened up in the last couple of weeks a Buffer account. You guys use Buffer? And it seems to be the closest thing to Hootsuite, which is my background, but it's just 10% of the cost, which is great. But I'm also using a tool called Dripify. You familiar with Dripify? So
No.
Dripify, it's only for LinkedIn. But what it does is you do a LinkedIn search. So let's say I was looking for sales directors in Coventry and Warwickshire. So I do a search. I grab the URL of that search, I stick that into Dripify, and then I can start a sequence around it. So it will, at the rate of, well, it depends upon what tier of LinkedIn you have, but if you've got a normal LinkedIn account, at the rate of 75 a day, it will send out connection requests. And if somebody doesn't reply, then you can schedule 3, 4, 5, 6 days later to like something on their profile, to comment on one of their posts, to endorse them, to just try and entice them to connect. And then the other side of the campaign is if anybody does accept, then you can basically sequence in a number of messages. And I'm just taking a very soft touch approach at the moment. So it's just literally, thanks for connecting, nothing more. And then maybe a follow-up sort of 10 days later that's, again, fairly soft, but just to, you've got to be careful, of course, with your messaging that it doesn't look automated. But for me, it's working really nicely. I've managed to add about 120 connections in 3 weeks for half an hour's work, and it saves me going down LinkedIn wormholes where I'm sat there all evening scrolling it. So I've got the machine doing the work for me. But then the key thing for me is it's all well and good creating an audience. I then have to write a song for them to sing. And so whilst I've got my next couple of weeks lined up in Buffer in front of me here, what you've shared both the what's on, but also your points about the diversity of the posts, and repurposing them is really important. I know from my days at the Empire, sending the same message every day, which is buy some tickets, buy some tickets, buy some tickets, just nobody sees it.
No.
So the ideas that you've given me in terms of stuff that's going to drive a bit of engagement is great, and everything you said about videos is bang on. So it's weird. Against all of my instincts, I've started posting stupid videos of me doing exercise, and it gets 10 times more engagement than anything else that I post about my business.
Yeah, don't bother talking, David. Just post the ones of doing exercise, because the moment you sit down with a script and go, I'm going to put some real effort into this, they'll probably bomb.
Well, the only exception to that, I did one Friday last week where I was just walking around Jefferson Gardens in Leamington. I just said, I've had a great week. I hope you've had a great week. And then I just tagged all the people I'd met with that week, and that was my post of the week. And it wasn't selling. The key thing, it wasn't selling anything, wasn't talking about my business. It was just, hi, hope you're all fine. I'm fine. Thanks for being part of my good week.
It's visibility. It's visibility. You've got to just keep doing it.
Those kind of posts work really, really well. And like we said, it's about variety. The problem is that some people will then say, oh, I had got a really good post doing that video, so I'm going to do it every single day. Well, then that doesn't work, because that's not going to interest people. The fact that you do it every so often is the right thing to be doing, and just having that variety. And then so on that app that you just talked about, David, is there a cost to that?
Yeah, it's $59 a month, so it's not cheap. But for me, not only is it growing my audience significantly, my biggest problem is my background. I wasn't in the UK, although I'm from Coventry. I was living in Denmark for 5 years. I was living in Amsterdam before that. So I've stupidly started a business in a city where I've got absolutely no network whatsoever. So it's doing a really good job for me, which is building my network locally, but critically without me doing a load of donkey work. And off the back of it, I've had 2 people come to me and ask for meetings, which just hasn't happened before. So if it was double that, it'd be worth it. Some of my colleagues in Sales Geek have found it quite useful, but it's just, I'm sharing it more for you guys. If ever you've got somebody that comes to you guys and says specifically they're looking to grow LinkedIn, that could be part of the armory, and it's a nice, not very labor intensive way of building the numbers.
Yeah, no, it's definitely worth looking at. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining us. And so this will be happening again in March, but I think it's a little bit earlier in March than it is this month. But we will send you out all of the details. And obviously, if anybody can't join us, then we do send the recording out. But have a good rest of your evening.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks a million, guys. Really good.
See you later.